Hello and welcome to the North American Lunaris 3v3 Draft Tournaments, and I'm your host, Mr. Rocks1337, and today we have Intensity VG going against Tactical Rooks. Intensity VG taking the A side, and Tactical Rooks taking the B side. He's good, as you see, Fatal, Silent Killer, and PvP Warrior, who has changed his name to I Am Not a Troll, is taking the third place for Intensity VG. And Matt Bubba, Keaton, and Blitz taking the three allies of Tactical Rooks. This is going to be a single band draft, and we will have to start the game anytime right now. We're looking at some issues popping up from Intensity VG. Let's fix that and get into the draft. Alright, so the draft has started. Over time, everyone knows that in the patch 2, ever since Baron's release, he's been quite a nuisance. Would we be expecting a Baron ban or a Grace ban? Grace has been doing a lot of deep diving damage, so she can also be a possible ban. Okay, so Baron has been banned, so we could possibly expect a lot of defensive maneuver, possibly a Vox pick or an Idris pick. A Grumpjaw ban reminds me of the previous patch where Grumpjaw and Baron used to be banned all the time, as Grumpjaw just does so much damage. Right now, I don't think it's that much of a meta as a ban, but it's still a good idea to ban Grumpjaw, as it can convert a 3v3 into a 3v2 very easily. That's a Grace pick coming in from Intensity, possibly looking at a lot of deep dive, because Grace is very, very fast. Her default movement speed is the fastest in-game without any empowering, and in general, she's basically the combination of Lance, Adagio, and Lyra in a way. So we have a Catherine and a Vox pickup coming in from Tactical Rooks. I would say it's a good idea by picking Catherine, as she can possibly stun out the Divine Intervention from Grace. But we're looking at an Idris pick coming in from Intensity VG. It's a very good pick, as Idris goes really, really well with Grace, as Idris, once he gets his Divergent Path perk unlocked, he can go into the backlines almost instantly with a blink and start diving way too deep into the carry side and take out enemy carries. So Grace is a very good pick along with Idris, but you're also looking at the Takas here. You're looking at a lot of dive coming in from Intensity VG, so to counter all the dive, that's a Petal pick, also very good, as Petal can fish out Taka from hiding, even though although no one can see Taka, the minions can find where Taka is going. So early game, I would say that Tactical Rooks have the advantage, as Petal can use her minions' advantage along with Vox's resonance damage to harass the entirety of Intensity VG, who are going extremely frontline, as you're looking at 3 melee picks. So I would say early game and Tactical Rooks have the advantage, but if played properly, Intensity VG can go around the disadvantage and have a successful early game and possibly a good snowball. But then again, Tactical Rooks may also have some cards hidden in their pocket, so let's see how they're going to play this out. We're looking at 3-man presence down in the jungle from Tactical Rooks. Blitz, well, Silent Killer is trying to get in the back lines, trying to get the back few minions, and he will successfully be doing that. Petal did decide to go in the middle, possibly try to take the center treant, but Grace would easily be able to confirm the picks from these back minions. Idris up in the lane along with Vox, trying to focus, trying to get all the CS, because in the early few seconds, feel that Idris can do something with his chakrams, but Vox can easily harass presence of Idris on the map with the resonance bounces from his perk. We're looking at slight aggression coming in from Taka as he's trying to go into the backlines, but he does get spotted by the scout trap. Blitz comes into the center, waits out for the treant, but decides to go into the backlines of Fatal. Fatal does get harassed, a lot of damage coming on of Fatal by the minions, and Grace goes into the fight. That's a Holy Nova onto Petal. Petal gets taken out by Grace, and Taka goes into his Kaku. Catherine does manage to stun Fatal, but that's all that she managed to do. Vox continues to damage Taka, and Taka does get away with his Kaiten over Vox, and Vox gets deleted with Grace and Idris diving into him. That's a very good play coming in from, good rotations coming in from I Am Not a Troll and Silent Killer. Well, you're looking at about a 1,000 gold lead already in the first 2 minutes, so that's a very good play. And Silent Killer does manage to steal the health treant, but he's getting harassed slightly by Petal. Petal does manage to, well, she decides to turn around, so Silent Killer walks away safe. Tries to confirm another minion kill, but does not manage to take any minion. Instead decides to stay in deep, very close to the enemies and push them away. That's an aggression onto Taka, onto Petal. Petal getting severely damaged by Taka's Kaiten, and Kaku pushes Taka way too close to Petal, but Petal managed to use her jump over the wall. Vox chasing Taka, trying to harass her, but Grace managed to get the kill on Petal, and that's going to be a second kill. So Catherine also taken out by Taka, and it's possibly going to be a third kill. It's not going to be a third kill as Taka is very low on health, and Silent Killer is not healthy enough to stay in a fight for long. But he does manage to get the third kill. Amazing play coming in from Silent Killer, using the A onto Vox, immediately deleting him. Petal tries to take revenge by coming close to Silent Killer, but Silent Killer does manage to walk away from any imposing dangers. Looking at 4 kills on Grace alone, so this is possibly going to be a fountain renewal already, but Grace is deciding to stay passive. Up on the lane, Idris is getting slightly damaged by Vox, and CS-wise, they both are doing slightly well, but Idris does have 11 creep kill advantage over Vox right now. It's slightly justified considering that Idris is a melee damage, so any damage that's coming onto him will be healed with the Book of Eulogies, but that's a lot of damage coming in from Vox onto Idris. But he does manage to recall away from any imposing death. Down in the jungle, Taka and Grace got severely damaged by Petal, but Petal managed to run away with very few health. She does manage to get the treant that keeps her alive, but that's all can be expected from this team fight, as well, this all can be expected from the team fight because Taka lost all of his energy continuing fighting, and he did not have enough energy, enough cooldown ready for him to continue damaging Vox, and Vox can easily walk behind the turrets and essentially make himself safe. Well, back in the jungle, we were looking at slight privacy, but Idris and Grace did decide to take advantage of the absence of any damage dealer up in the lane, and that's a lot of damage coming from Idris onto Vox. And we noticed that Idris is deciding to go Crystal Power, so we can expect a lot of burst damage coming from the Chakram, but most of the surprise damage should be expected from Fatal, as he's decided to go weapon power, and right now he already confirmed himself a Sora Blade, so they're possibly starting to take this Crystal Sentry. The Crystal Sentry does get damaged slightly, but Taka getting stunned up by Catherine, gets harassed, and now Grace takes a lot of damage by the Sentry, and Vox and Petal are also down in the jungle, so that's going to be a lot of damage coming into Fatal. Fatal gets severely stunned and damaged, and that's going to be 1 kill on Taka for Catherine. Now you're looking at double fountain. Both protectors now have a fountain. I'm not a troll. Does manage to get his divergent paths perk unlocked, and now Idris getting severely outpositioned by Vox and Catherine, getting stunned up. Now he decides to go shouts Shroud Step, but does not use a Shimmer Strike for his safety. He still gets healed by the Phantom Renewal. Now they decide to go deep into the fight, and that's going to be a Shimmer Strike, and that's going to be 1 dead Vox, and Catherine is getting severely focused, and that's going to be an X-Retsu onto Catherine, and Catherine does use her Fountain, but that does manage to keep her alive for the last few seconds against Taka. Petal, already in a very low health, cannot come up in the lane with such a health bar, because Taka and Idris can easily burst her down. That's a lot of damage coming on to Vox, but Taka taking a lot of turret shots, so he's going to be way too low on health to continue damaging the turrets. That's going to be 1 safe turret, good placements of the basic attacks for Keaton. But that's all that can be done in this team fight, as Grace is the only one with relatively high health, and they do decide to take the safe way out by turning away from the tower, from the turret, in the last few moments, letting the minions do some damage on the turret, so that when they go for the next wave, they can get a kill, they can get the turret destroyed, and possibly set up for an ace. Taka does come up in lane, and he's possibly ready for another gank onto Vox and Catherine. Vox does recognize a possible invade, so he does decide to go in the back lines and stay at the back, not out in front into the enemy lines. Petal also trying to get her heal buff from the Treant, and Grace, Idris, and Taka have decided to go capture the gold mine, but they managed. Idris does manage to take the Treant kill, so that's going to be a lot of healing coming in for Idris right now. Catherine waiting out, trying to fish out a possible aggression onto Tactical Rooks. Silent Killer taunting the enemy team, forcing them to attack, but they decided to stay passive, expecting a trap being laid out, so they did not go into the deep and try to get some kills. Instead, Grace does get caught out by the Catherine stun. Petal comes into the lane, damages not a troll, but then they all decide to stay passive and stay in the back lines. Vision-wise, Matt Bubba is doing pretty well, tossing the flares to fish out Taka for any presence. That's an X-Retsu onto Vox. Vox gets almost stunned, but he dodges the stun with the Kaiten, and Petal takes a lot of damage, but she's forced. Catherine's forced to use a fountain, but Idris does decide to get away from any possible damage, as he takes in a lot of turret shots, misses his chakra and puts it in the wrong direction. But Catherine comes top. Petal comes down to steal the health miner, but Taka X-Retsu on to Petal to take her out almost immediately. The Sentry hitting damages, hitting basic shots from down in the jungle. Possibly going to confirm a kill on the Sentry, but Taka on relatively low health. I don't think he will be able to confirm the kill, but up in the lane, Idris is trying to do some damage on the turret while letting Grace confirm the turret hit, confirming the turret kill, and Taka confirms the Crystal Sentry, so that's going to be another few hundred gold in the pockets of Intensity VG. Down in the jungle, Grace is all the way on the back, does not notice Petal is also waiting for him there, but no possible aggression, as Petal knows that if she decides to go way too deep, she does not have any protection from the Crystal Sentry, so she can get aggressed on very easily by Idris or Taka. So 10 minutes in and no gold miner captured yet, and Idris already has 2 damage items, a Shattered Glass and an AC Current in his pocket, and you're looking at almost, well, literally no crystal defense coming in from both damage dealers of Tactical Rooks. So the only thing that you can expect right now is a possible defense coming in for Idris, as he can do a lot of damage down in the jungle. Kaiten onto Xretsu onto Catherine. Catherine managed to chase Taka, make Taka chase her into the backlands. That's going to be one silence onto Taka, and Taka does die to the damages coming from Petal and Vox combined. He does manage to harass Taka, well, harass Vox, but nothing else can be done. Grace gets chased down by Vox and Petal. Frostburn on Petal means you cannot escape the damage from Petal's minions. So there's possibly going to be a gold mine for Tactical Rooks, and Idris on the other hand is trying to take out the turret. Does do a decent amount of damage, but Vox does manage to get him back. But I don't think he'll be able to save the turret from any imposing damage, and decides to go into the fight, try to take out Idris, but Idris already with his 3 items can do a lot of damage with the chakrams. That's a chakram on Petal. Petal takes a lot of damage with the divergent path shots, and she does die to the Shimmer Strike and Shroud Steps. Grace does come and assist Vox, assist Idris in confirming the Hell Triumph. So that's going to be putting Idris back to full health. And since you're looking at energy-based carry, so you're not expecting any recall coming in from Idris, just because he has so much, just because he can build up his energy in a couple seconds to max energy, and he doesn't need to do a lot to do that either. Taka is way in the back, but Idris decides to get gutsy, goes into the deep to dish out some massive damage with the chakrams onto Vox, but Catherine does harass Idris and stuns him out for any possible damage. That's another deep dive coming in from Intensity VG onto Vox, and Vox does get destroyed. And Chakram's ready. That's a run into Petal. Petal does get away into the Sanctuary, and that's all that can be done because Catherine does manage to pop her Atlas Pauldron onto Taka and Idris both. That's a stun onto Taka, and that's a lot of damage coming on to Taka, but he does manage to survive everything with a Kaiten. The next Retsu onto a turret. Vox is also up, so that's going to be excessive bad positioning from Intensity VG onto Tactical Rooks, and Catherine getting severely damaged. Grace getting severely damaged, but Vox is also too, and Grace does die to the attacks coming in from Petal, and Taka also manages to die from Petal, and Idris trying to avenge the death of his allies cannot do much as he's way behind enemy lines, outposition himself, and that's going to be an ace for Tactical Rooks. Good placement by Tactical Rooks, who place themselves right behind Intensity VG, preventing them to escape from their sanctuary, so essentially trapping them within their home and getting themselves an ace. Vox is back up in the lane along with against Grace. Grace tries to do some sort of damage, but does get slightly wounded, massively wounded actually. About 2/3 of her health is already taken off the map, and now she's forced to recall or stay behind close to the turret so that she cannot get focused on. The other hand, Tactical Rooks are ready for a possible 3v3 because you're looking at 3 damage items on Vox and Broken Myth and Frostburn on Petal, so you're looking at a decent amount of damage coming in from Tactical Rooks, but so are Intensity VG ready for a 3v3. As a matter of fact, that's an Xretsu onto Taka, but since he's not Crystal Power, that's not a lot of damage, and Taka does get caught out by Catherine. He gets stunned, and Silent Killer managed to toss in a heal onto Taka. Taka gets extremely healed, and that's going to be one deep dive onto Vox, and Vox gets deleted. Catherine is forced to stay away from the fight as she cannot do much. And she does get spotted out, and she does manage to recall from the impending damage. Idris, on the other hand, taking in a lot of damage from the bounce backs, from the rebounds from the Stormguard, forced to head back as Catherine can do quite a bit of damage just with the Stormguard, bouncing up a lot of damage that Idris can toss with his Chakram. Intensity VG decide to capture the Kraken on the other hand, but do not notice that there is a mine. Silent Killer taking in a lot of damage from the Kraken. Matt Bubba trying to steal the Kraken, but managed to get the kill on Grace. That's a very easy kill for Catherine. That's a lot of damage coming on to Taka from the Munions, but Catherine forced to pull out her Founder Renewal. Idris, on the other hand, trying to do much damage, does manage to get the kill onto Petal, and trying to steal the Kraken, does manage to confirm the Kraken from right under Tactical Rook's nose, and Idris is now forced, Vox is now forced to use his basic shots onto Kraken to get him down as soon as possible, as Idris will manage to get a possible ace onto Tactical Rooks, and they do get the ace for themselves. So there's going to be an empowered minion wave going towards the crystal turret. So there's going to be one destroyed turret, so the Kraken is going to go in towards the Vein Crystal at full health. There's going to be possibly going to be game if Idris and if Vox and Petal do not decide to damage the Kraken before Intensity VG get into the fight. Vox is up, Catherine is up, and Petal is also up. That's going to be a lot of damage for Kraken to do onto the Vein Crystal, but I'm pretty sure that Intensity VG can confirm this game if they manage to drop in a couple of chakrams. But he decides to jump into the enemy sanctuary, getting himself killed. Vox taking a lot of damage from the Sorrow Blade in Taka's hands. Petal cannot do enough damage onto Kraken. Kraken does confirm the Vein Crystal for Intensity VG, so this is one victory coming in for Intensity VG against Tactical Rooks. So since this is a best of one, so this game does go towards Intensity VG. Good place coming in from Silent Killer, Not a Troll, and Fatal. Not a Troll using his Chakram really well, tossing in chakrams and synergizing really well with his Shimmer Strike and Shroud Step. I'm sorry, it's really hard to say these words because they're so much of a tongue twister. And he did really well with the Chakram play, managed to keep it out for as long as possible, as long as actually possible, allowed by the game to do, and dished out so much damage onto Vox and Petal whenever they decided to 1v1 Idris. He landed most of his chakrams really well. Fatal, on the other hand, did a very, very good job by diving in right on to Petal, harassing Petal all the time so that she does not decide to stick on to Idris, because one thing to be noted is that since I'm Not a Troll does not have his Sorrow Blade, he cannot do any damage on, he cannot blink around and stick onto his opponents like he used to when he's a weapon power. So in essence, Petal was forced to stay in the backline, so there's not going to be any Frostburn onto Idris, so Idris could freely stick onto Vox and Catherine for as long as possible, as long as he wanted to. Grace also did a very good job in the early few minutes by diving way in too deep behind the jungle lines and taking out all the jungle minions, so good plays coming in from Intensity VG. GG Tactical Rook and Intensity VG. So this is going to be our first break, and we will be playing the next round in about 12 minutes from now. So until then, go get yourself a cup of water, go get yourself some coffee, because possibly the next game is going to be extremely hyped up. Hello and welcome to the North American Lunaris 3v3 drafts. And today we're looking at the Hellhounds going against Ego Esport, and Hellhounds taking the A side and Ego Esport taking the B side. You're looking at Dragon Crusher, Isaias Jin, and Warrior Games for the Hellhounds, and Ego Esport having actually, there is going to be an issue as the Hellhounds are actually on the B side, and Ego Esport are on the A side. Got to fix that right away, but anyways, you're looking at the draft screen and not much is going on. The Baron getting banned as always, as this and every other patch has been telling us the same thing again and again. Baron does a lot of damage, and there's nothing much that you can do about him. The Grumjaw ban coming in from the Hellhounds. Expected, as Grumjaw can eat you very easily, but Grace pick coming in again kind of reminds me of the first game that we just saw in this tournament. And Kestrel pick as a counter pick to Grace, I would say it's a very, very good pick, as Kestrel can go into her active camo trap and toss in massive damage onto Grace. That's a Taka pick coming along with Kestrel, so you're possibly looking at a lot of mortal bleeds coming in from the Hellhounds onto Ego Esports, so they have to do something about a lot of mobility. That's a hover onto Baptiste. Baptiste finally getting locked in the North American Lunaris Tournaments, so we're very, very excited to see how he's going to be played out in this tournament, as he does a lot of zone locking, and having Grace along with Baptiste, you can expect a lot of stuns and a lot of sectioning to assist Vox to do a lot of damage onto the target, as the target cannot escape anything. So you're looking at another counter pick of a Catherine. Catherine is right, just like what we saw in the first game. Catherine did a lot of stuns, but Catherine was not able to stun out Grace all the time whenever Grace was channeling the Divine Intervention. So we'd have to see how this plays out once again. You're looking at a lot of late game plays coming in from the Hellhounds, but Ego Esport having a lot of early game burst damage coming in from Grace and Baptiste, just because Baptiste possibly gonna go the Crystal Power Path. If Baptiste does do that, you're looking at about 400 damage in the early 4 minutes. That's extremely high, considering the fact that your enemies have, the carry has just 600 health. Battle did begin. Ego Esport on the A side, trying to split the carry and the jungler and the backlines, sending Grace up in the lane, and well, at least not in the lane, sending Grace in the mid just to protect an invasion coming in from the Hellhounds. But Hellhounds deciding to stay passive. They decide to stay close to the turrets and close to the enemy tree, and coming from the bottom, Taka does manage to position himself way far away from Grace. The only thing that can be expected right now is if Grace decides to come in deep trying to take the backs, but she cannot do that. Kestrel is ready for a possible aggression onto Ego Esport, but the Hellhounds do not hound up on Ego Esport. Rather, they decide to stay passive about this. Kestrel tossing a lot of glimmer shots onto Dragon Crusher, but just managed to connect one of them. He gets his health back with the Treant health heal. Taka in the back trying to collect his big minions. That's the one glimmer shot onto Vox. Vox getting stunned out by Catherine. Catherine decided to turn around and get away while letting Kestrel drop in a couple of more glimmer shots. But Heath and Grace are back up in lane, so that's going to be a lot of surprise damage from Ego Esport onto the Hellhounds. Taka in the backline, Catherine leaving Taka, so essentially leaving Kestrel all to herself. Good placement by Kestrel, actually, by keeping herself in the upper bush, keeping herself hidden from a surprise burst coming in from Grace. That's a dive coming in from Grace onto Kestrel, but that's all that can be expected from that damage. Kestrel gets her health back by popping one of the Halcyon, one of the, well, heals, Halcyon potions, that's what you call it. And now you're looking at Taka and Catherine back down in the jungle. There's possibly going to be an aggression onto Warrior Games, but Warrior Games just decide to turn around and get away from any possible danger. Dragon Crusher continuing to steal, take his creeps, slowly pushing, slowly inching his minion wave deep inside the enemy side, but Kestrel, realizing that they're trying to do this, decides to harass the enemy, pushes them into the backlands. But that's all that can be done right now, as Vox and Kestrel in the early few minutes, although they don't do a lot of damage, if they decide to stay close to their minions, they will be taking in quite a bit of bruising from the bounces coming in from the resonance and the glimmer shot crystal damage, if not the weapon damage. Kestrel does decide to get in the backlands. Vox does get a couple of glimmer shots, but that's all that can be done, as Catherine was not ready for a stun dive. Warrior Games forced to recall, and Vox does recall, essentially letting the Hellhounds possibly aggress in some other region. Taka trying to aggress into Baptiste. Baptiste does take a Kaiten damage, and that's going to be sticking onto Baptiste, and that's going to be a possible stun, and Baptiste does get stunned by Catherine, but Catherine gets counter stunned, and that's going to be a lot of damage onto Catherine, taking necessary out-positioning damage, and Vox continuing to stick onto Catherine, trying to toss in a couple of basic shots, but Catherine does get away from any imposing damage. Jungle did intensify, so now you're possibly looking at fountain being picked up. No fountains being picked up. Catherine is deciding to go towards the Stormcrown path. Up in the lane, Kestrel is happily farming her lane minions, sending in a massive wave down into the Ego Esports turrets, but Grace continuing to stay up in lane, trying to freeze the massive lane push coming in from the Hellhounds. Vox does come up in lane, continues to take his creeps, trying to push his gold, put the gold in his pocket and not in the turret's hands. He does get the elder minions, the bigger minions, and there's going to be an aggression onto a lot of damage coming onto Kestrel and Catherine, so they're forced to move back as Catherine tries to body block the bad mojo shots coming in from Baptiste, but Baptiste, already in his empowered mode, does massive burst damage and does manage to essentially kill Catherine instead of Kestrel, confirming the first blood for Ego Esport. It's going to be in a continued passive play coming in from the Hellhounds and Ego Esports. No deep minion push, but Warrior Games doing a good job taking out the minions whenever they're in low health. Catherine does come back up in lane. Grace and Catherine fighting it out up in the lane. Catherine does take a stun from the Holy Nova. Kestrel tossing in some of the basic shots, already managed to get a few items building towards her Sorrow Blade. Vox gets stunned out, and that's an extra Retsu onto Vox, but Vox does manage to get away because of the Holy Nova. And Taka getting caught out by the Ordained. That's a lot of stun coming on, damage coming onto the Hellhounds, but Baptiste wastes his empowered mode into walking away and away from enemies, so there's going to be lesser expected damage coming in from the Ego Esports onto the Hellhounds, but that's all that can be done right now. Taka attempts to steal some of the front minions, but nothing else that can be done in that case, as Baptiste is possibly decided to go in for an engage, but no, Taka does decide to turn around, stay with Catherine, stay in the back regions. Taka does notice that the front minions are up, but just still did not notice the fact that there is a scout trap, so he's constantly being spotted out by the trap, so he has to be slightly careful. Level 6 already for Kestrel and Taka, and you're looking at a level 6 and level 7 for Baptiste, and Vox. So Ego Esport have a 2k gold lead, although it's just a 1-0 kill difference for both teams. Clearly tells us that Ego Esport is doing a really good job in establishing objective control. As you're looking at 73 creeps confirmed, 57, so Vox doing a really good job in getting the creeps, but Dragon Crusher, but Kestrel has to do something really good in order to capture, in order to get the advantage of the creeps on against Ego Esport by getting kills on Ego Esport. That's a deep dive onto Vox. Vox does get away from any possible damage, does manage to take the one-shot, one kill, but that's all that can be done. Ego Esport decided to play this defensively and stay in the back lines, but Vox does come back up in the lane with a Treant heal, so there's going to be a lot of bounce back damage coming in from Ego's Esport onto the Hellhounds if the Hellhounds decide to go in deep to do any damage. Catherine does get caught out by the Ordained. Catherine does get away from any possible damage, and Glimmer shots onto the minions. Kestrel trying to do something or the other so that the tower does not get destroyed, but dives coming on to Catherine, and Taka trying to take out Vox, but gets massive damage coming in from the bad mojo shots and the fearsome shades, pushing away Kestrel from any 2v3 into a 2v3v1. Kestrel in low health cannot protect the tower, and if she decides to stay close to the turret, she will get destroyed, and that's exactly what was done. Grace does get the kill onto Kestrel, but the tower, the turret does stay safe. Good plays coming in from the Hellhounds and Ego Esport, but Kestrel does manage to sacrifice her life to protect the Vein Crystal, by protecting the tier 1 tower. A lot of passive plays coming in from both teams right now, as all 3 members of Ego Esport decide to stay in the back lines, continue to take the backfield minions. One thing that I have noticed is that if you do not have anything to do, what they can possibly do is move as a team in the back lines. And while I'm saying that, that's a lot of damage coming onto Taka after getting caught out from the Kaku, and Kestrel trying to avenge Taka but does not manage to do any damage, as everyone have a lot of defense against Kestrel. Massive burst damage coming in from Baptiste onto Kestrel, onto Catherine. Catherine does get away from any possible damage, just getting them stunned out by the Holy Nova, and the turret is going to take it out, and Catherine does get destroyed. That's going to be one destroyed turret, and Kestrel also does get caught out. That's a lot of damage coming on a Kestrel, and Kestrel does get destroyed by Vox and Baptiste burst. Good plays coming in from all 3 members of Ego Esport. Taka did get out positioned really bad, but another thing to notice is that he was not close to his he was not at all close to his roam, so this essentially put him in a very bad position, as he was moving around in the jungle in Kaku, and that too on the enemy side. So another thing to notice is that if you have vision around, and if you're going to the enemy side, the one thing that you should know by default is that there has to be a vision in the bushes or somewhere around you, so that you will be fished out if you're hiding. That's a dive on to Catherine. Catherine does decide to turn around by stunning someone in Ego Esport, but her ultimate, her silence and her stun, they both get pushed away by the fearsome shades, and the entirety of the Hellhounds are pushed away from an aggression. So this 3v3 was immediately turned into a 3v2. That's a lot of deep dive into Taka, and Kestrel gets taken out immediately by Vox and Baptiste. Baptiste doing a really good job landing most of his bad mojos in the empowered state onto the targets, essentially allowing himself to surprise the opponents with a lot of damage coming in from the bad mojo when empowered. The Hellhounds need to notice this burst damage coming in from Baptiste. Taka getting severely damaged, severely focused down by Vox and Baptiste combined because he went way too deep into the enemy lines, and Grace does decide to jump into the Catherine. Catherine gets out position. Kestrel tries to take out Grace, but Grace does manage to heal herself back up to medium health, like halfway, and Grace does manage to get the kill onto Kestrel. Ego Esport decide to go down in the jungle, get the gold mine. There's going to be another 3k gold, 300 gold, about 1000 gold in the pockets of Ego Esport. It has come to a point where Ego Esport have confirmed about 10k gold, 11k gold lead against the Hellhounds. So this puts the Hellhounds in a position where they have to play extremely defensively until they get into a position of getting a kill onto Ego Esport. The Hellhounds have to be quite careful whenever they're diving. Taka has to be careful whenever he dives into the enemy side, because he should be noticing that a Holy Nova from Grace will stun out Taka if he does not time his Kaiten properly. And engaging with a Kaku before a team fight will put him in a position of getting taken out very easily. Grace does decide to go into the enemy lines and manage to catch out Taka. Taka taking a lot of damage, and so is Kestrel. Kestrel was feared away by the fearsome shade, and there's going to be a lot of damage onto Catherine. Not a lot of damage possibly expected from anyone in the Hellhounds, as they don't have enough tier 3 items to dish out any fearful damage onto Ego Esport. Ego Esport, on the other hand, already have two tier 3 items, 2 tier 3 damage items in their pockets. It's about 14 minutes in the game, and Stormcrown alone cannot do enough damage on Ego Esport, so that puts them in a disadvantage. Ego Esport ready for a surprise damage onto Taka. Taka doesn't manage to get away from any burst damage coming in from Ego Esport, but Kestrel, on the other hand, does get trapped in by the damages from Ego Esport. Catherine deciding to sacrifice herself for her team by silencing the entirety of Ego Esport does not manage to save the team, because that was a lot of damage coming in from Ego Esport onto Kestrel and Catherine combined. Taka, with his extra hits, just managed to take out a sliver of health from Vox's health. So that is one thing to notice. He does not have enough crystal piercing or any crystal power per se in the early few minutes, and cannot build enough of it as well, so he was not able to put himself in a situation where he could do a lot of damage onto Vox. So the only thing that can be expected right now is by allowing Kestrel to go into the backlines and focus down Vox. They have to play aggressively in order to get the advantage against Ego Esport. Ego Esport, on the other hand, decided to capture the Kraken. They decided to cap Ego Esport taking a lot of damage from the Kraken, but he's put back into the full health, and Catherine and Celeste, Catherine and Taka taking massive damage, and Kestrel, on the other hand, positioned herself way too deep inside the enemy lines and severely getting herself caught out, and that's a dive onto Taka, and Vox does get the kill. There's going to be an attempted double turret kill, but the cooldowns are low enough for anyone from the Hellhounds to get back up to health. That's an ace minion wave coming up into the turret, and the tier 2 turret, and the tier 5 turrets. All the Vein Crystal turrets are now destroyed. Crystal Sensor does come back into the fold, tries to do a lot of damage onto the carriers from Ego Esport, but Ego Esport will manage to take the Vein Crystal for themselves. This is finally one game in the hand of a couple kills in the hands of Ego for the Hellhounds. Ego Esport managing to walk away from any impending dangers. So good games by keeping all the carries alive for Ego Esport all throughout the game. Baptiste, on the other hand, managed to lose his life in the last few seconds before the game got over. So either way, he decided to sacrifice himself for Vox, allowing Vox to take out the Vein Crystal. So very good place coming in from Dragon Crusher, 1305. Perfect place coming in from Grace and Vox. And Bautiste, if you could say that the last few seconds were not considered. Taka has to start communicating with Catherine a lot whenever they decide to fight, because whenever you'd notice, Taka would be positioned way behind enemy lines, and Catherine could not get close to Taka to toss in any sort of supporting assist. And Kestrel, on the other hand, 14 minutes deep, and you'd only see breaking points. So Kestrel would have to work a little bit on the farming, as 16 minutes in the game and 87 creeps is not something that you would want to see in a carry's performance. Possibly could be due to connection issues, possibly just could not do it because it wasn't a comfort pick, but either way, Kestrel would have to work a little bit on her carry performance. Bautiste, on the other hand, did very good by locking in the targets using his Ordained and catching out enemies with the bad mojo and forcing Catherine or Taka to body block for Kestrel whenever Kestrel would try to toss in some glimmer shots or one shot, one kill. Either way, good place coming from Ego Esport, GG to both the teams, and we'll continue to the next match in about 18 minutes from now. And until then, be patient, and we will be right back after the break.